Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs, the X Review edition. Before I continue, I urge you to please press the like button. And if you're new to this show, I also urge you to subscribe. As you all know, I have Project 5,000. We're trying to get this channel to 5,000 subscribers. So if you're new to this show, it will do us a lot of good if you subscribe. Well, a lot has been happening in the past 12 hours, and we will want to get into analyzing the news, geopolitical news that I find in my X feed. That is what I do on the X Review channel. So the first story I have in this X review is one that has to do with China and Iran. Chinese satellites are taking images of recently deployed US defense systems in the Middle East and making them public. This provides Iran with free targeting data. Well, we see this cooperation between China and Iran. This is not specific. This is public, as this report is saying. It's a Iran observer. And we see this review now where the statement here is saying that China is putting out these images for the Iranians to be able to use in targeting America. Well, we know one thing. In this war with Ukraine, we've been seeing how a lot of Western-leaning satellite providers like Max Labs, they put out a lot of all these satellite data, and they help definitely in the Ukrainians in targeting Russian locations. In fact, after every attack, they even have these satellites flow out there, and then they see the damage done by an attack. So China and Iran is going through a lot of pressures now by America. America is amassing a lot of weaponry around the Gulf area, and China has a lot of interest in Iran's well-being. China buys a lot, 90% of all of Iran's oil. It is very important contributor to China's oil security. And they will not want this regime to fall just like that and get into American hands. That will mean strategically and geopolitically that if the regime is changed in Iran, it will mean that China will have to start building new relationships already. Of course, we know that America wants to put um, a regime that is more amenable to America. And that will mean that there will be more vulnerability for the Chinese. They will see that all their access to oil is being blocked. Already we know what has happened in Venezuela, where the Venezuelan regime that used to have cooperation with China has been toppled. Although the Americans are still insisting now that the Chinese can continue to buy the oil, but their agenda in Iran is one that is very worrisome. The cooperation between China and Iran goes beyond just these satellite images. In the 12-day war, the Iranians used the Chinese Beidou system. The GPS system that they used was the Beidou system, and that really helped. In this latest, in the January 2026 demonstrations that took place also in Iran, January 8th and January 9th, the Chinese and the Iranians they cooperated to a point where they were able to jam Starlink signals incoming into Iran, and that really helped in disrupting the demonstrations because they were using Starlink terminals. So this cooperation is going on and is going on strong, and even though this is open source, this is put out to the public there, we know that the Iranians will be very grateful to have these images. Well, the next story we have here now is an interesting one. It is the one that happened over the course of the past 24 hours, a few hours ago in the night, late in the night in Ukraine. Two Iskander strikes hit Philip Morris tobacco factory in Kharkiv last night. The plant finally delivered its core product again, smoke. The factory has reportedly been non-operational since 2022 after production was suspended due to the war. Philip Morris later shifted production elsewhere, including launching a new facility in Lvov region. It's therefore reasonable to assume the site may have been repurposed by the armed forces of Ukraine. The facility is owned and operated by Phyllis Morris Ukraine, a Ukrainian subsidiary of the American-based multinational Philip Morris. So the Russians may have gotten intelligence that this American company is doing something much more than selling tobacco or manufacturing tobacco products. And we see all these attacks across Ukraine now. One of the things we've come to see is that the Russians don't hold off from attacking American companies. We saw that big attack on Flex, and that Flex company, they said, were building electronic components for Ukraine's drone program. So whatever it is that was going on in this particular factory here now, the Russians may have come to know about it, and they decided that they will put a stop to it, so they attacked it. There was an extensive attack. In fact, Zelensky talked about how they attacked many, many regions. We should remember also that President Trump was able to negotiate an energy ceasefire. So the Russians promised not to be hitting energy plants, but what they have been doing is that this huge attack with drones and with missiles over the course over the night actually destroyed a lot of logistic facilities across Ukraine, very many cities. But this one is the one of particular interest because, of course, anything that has to do with America. American companies, one was hit, a sunflower flower company was hit in Odessa. And like I said, the one Flex was also hit. So the Americans they're not safe from Russian drones, guaranteed drones and missiles, Iskander missiles, if the Russian intelligence finds out that they have made their factory available for manufacture of weaponry. Well, this is the big news of the day. Justice Department has deleted all the files which had various allegations against Trump, including rape and trafficking in the newly released Epstein files. So these files were released. The Epstein files have been one of President Trump's big challenges on the domestic front. And a new batch of them, I think over a million pages of this investigation. The investigation against Epstein was a long-running one. Epstein had a tremendous influence. He consulted with presidents, with a lot of diplomats, and this particular release by the Justice Department made some very strong allegations against President Trump. And not only Trump, Bill Gates, a lot of people were accused in this new release. President Trump has done everything to stop the release of the Epstein files. And this, as he always is saying, may be one of the agendas of the Democrats. They have subpoenaed, they have made sure that they try to get to the bottom of these Epstein files. He promised he was going to release it, and now he's releasing it, but he too is being caught up in it. It is a big thing. How it will affect him domestically, I doubt it. There will be no effect on him. But he has been strenuously denying any role in all the activities of the convicted Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, let's go on to the next story now. It says Saudi Aramco runs the world's oil. China alone absorbs 1.7 billion. Then Japan, 960 million barrels of crude a day. Korea, 950,000 barrels of crude a day. And India, 800,000 barrels of crude a day. So this is then the Latin America, 700,000 barrels of crude a day. Saudi Aramco is the state-owned company of Saudi Arabia. They are among, I think they are the world's largest company by capitalization. And they've managed to very successfully become a very profitable business. This is all the places that they sell oil to. Well, one thing I can tell you this is that America has ramped up oil production. Russia too has also ramped up oil production. But for the countries in the Middle East and Southeast Asia, as we can see here, Saudi Aramco's operations are very extensive. It's very, very extensive. And they have also expanded into LNG. They are also in blue hydrogen, blue ammonia. Their operations are really big. And it's one of the best run oil companies. They have also become a very big source for Saudi's ability to create wealth within their country because they contribute to the Saudi investment fund, the PIF. They are now run by they have the PIF has extensive shares in Saudi Aramco, and they are very important. This is where Saudi Arabia gets its strength for. I think Saudi oil production is around 9 to 10 million barrels per day. And these are all the markets they sell it to. 1.5, 1.75 to China, 800,000 to India, 500 to Africa, and Latin America and US, 700, Japan, 600. And so their oil is very important to the driving most of these Asian countries, and it is very important that they are able to maintain peace. This may be one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia is very much at the forefront of trying to make sure that there's no crisis. The war between Iran or being threatened by Donald Trump against Iran, it will not serve their interest if that war does take place, because they want to continue to sell their oil. Iran is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz. One country, though, that is being hit very seriously by high oil prices and high energy prices is Germany. Industrialization in Germany is being denuded. Their companies are not being competitive. Their biggest companies are moving out of Germany and moving into opening new plants in China and in the United States of America. So more winnings for Germany. German unemployment has hit 12-year high with Germany's jobless total jumping to 3 million in January. That's the highest since 2014, rising by 177,000 from December and lifting the unemployment rate to 6.6%. That will be very high. Germany has been hit seriously by this Ukraine war and all the slew of sanctions that the EU has put against the Russian state. Besides that, Germany has decided that they were going to wean themselves off of Russian oil and Russian oil and gas. It has made the economy very uncompetitive. The AfD is saying that's Alice Wendel's party. She is saying the Alternative for Deutschland, that they will find a way to make peace with the Russians and get back Russian gas into Germany. But these are stark numbers. These are the numbers that show us that Germany is suffering from this war. The blowback of the war has really affected more the Europeans who put all the sanctions against the Russians. So this is one sign of it. Let's go to the next story now, and the next story has to do with, we're still in that same story. These are the replies. Sometimes the replies, you read the replies of this post, they are very interesting to see. Let's see the next story here. The Laowang 818 is China's massive electronic reconnaissance ship displacing 30,000 tons. It uses X-band and X-band radars to track 1,200 targets across 6,000 kilometers, including intercontinental missiles, providing early warning and electronic defense. China is becoming a blue sea power. They are able to project power now, at least if not extensively as the Americans, but within that Pacific, Southeast Asia region, they are definitely in that space. In the last war, that war that was fought, the 12-day war, and even the war against all this mass going on against Iran, the Chinese quietly moved their ship. It's a radar ship. It's an intelligence gathering ship. They moved it to the Red Sea. They were the only foreign company outside of the Western world that are able to go and assist their let's say partners. If they don't give them military support, at least they give them intelligence support, and it is through the actions of this ship. Well, we should know one thing, though, that the Chinese now have the world's largest navy. The People's Liberation Army Navy is really big. They have by far more ships now. I think about 700 surface ships, more than the Americans. And they are building more and more. They have all these destroyers, type 54, type 74. They have a vast array of destroyers that have vertical tubes that launch a lot of hypersonic missiles and all. So they are very good at it. They are building new aircraft carriers. They are building new submarines. They've just been able to match America in the number of submarines that they have, and they are moving on in that particular space. Let's see a map here now about the war situation in Ukraine. Calibrated, Scott of Calibrated says that Russian forces have captured Ternovate and in the Zaporozhye region. The Zaporozhye region has finally picked up again for the Russians. There was a slowdown there. There was a very big push after the capture of Goliopoli, but this has slowed down because the Ukrainians sent in vast amount of troops to be able to hold off the Russians, but the Russians nevertheless are slowly moving, and Ternovate in the Zaporozhye region has been captured according to Scott of Calibrated. I wonder how far away this particular settlement is from Orekov, or how far away it is from the Zaporozhye city itself. Well, things are going the way of the Russians in that particular sector, as we can see. And breaking news, Russian Defense Forces say 7 settlements in Ukraine have come under our control. The Russian Ministry of Defense makes out these statements, and most times you get the details of the statements from the news agencies. This is not a full report of the Ministry of Defense. They put out the full report of the Ministry of Defense most times, and they point out all the settlements that have come under the control. But this is what we get, one-way control all the time. In Zaporozhye, in Kharkiv, in Sumy, they're getting more and more settlements, 1 year, 1 there, 2 there. And then they've even opened new fronts in this Sumy border regions, new fronts in the border regions to stress the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainian military is really suffering from being extended. And maybe all this cold and all this talk of peace and ceasefire is just creating confusion for them. But nevertheless, it's not an easy battle for the Russians, but they are making progress, slow and steady progress. The next story will be that, this is what we keep talking about. This is from TASS here now. It says, the Gronich FSB unit eliminated Ukrainian saboteurs in the outskirts of Dimitrov in the Donetsk People's Republic. Dimitrov, I think, is Minograd. Enemy attempted to set up an ambush in Russia for Russian servicemen, the department reported. So these are the drone images we get. The men are crawling and they don't know they have been observed. Yeah, this is what we get to see about this war. Really changed the war, and it's on both sides of the aisle. You should know it's not just against the Ukrainians alone. The Ukrainians also do a lot of damage on the Russians, and they too also show us how their FVP drones track Russian military personnel, their troops, and attack them. So this one here now, oh my God. This simply means that these 2 servicemen may have been killed, or these few servicemen here may have been killed, or they may have suffered extensive injuries. So the Greenwich FSB unit eliminated Ukrainian saboteurs on the outskirts of Dimitrov in the DPR. The enemy attempted to set up an ambush of Russian servicemen, the department reported. That is a lost cause for them now. Breaking news. This again is the story that is defining the moment. An unclassified FBI confidential human source has reportedly alleged that during his first term, President Donald Trump was entirely co-opted by Israel, with Jared Kushner exercising outsized control over key decisions. A CHS report is based on information from the FBI validated informant, lending the allegation more weight. Well, it won't be a surprise to anybody. President Trump has an uncommon love for the Israeli state. One of the things is that one of the biggest contributors to his campaign is Maria Adelson. And her husband then, in his first term, Sheldon Adelson, they own the Sands Group. The Sands Group is a big, extensive hotel and gambling chain based off of Las Vegas, Nevada, but they have branches all over America. And this woman, Maria Alderson, she's now the richest woman in Israel, possibly the richest person in Israel. She's worth over $60 billion. And she contributed well over $100 million to President Trump's campaign in this particular second iteration as president. I think in the first iteration, she contributed 50 billion there. She's a great supporter. And one of the things she always asks Donald Trump to do is that anytime she's supporting him, she makes him pledge that it's going to support the state of Israel. Besides that, also, Jared Kushner and Netanyahu has a great relationship. They have a great relationship. And we see how other influential supporters of Israel, like even Steve Witkoff, we should not forget, is also a supporter of Israel. They have a large lobby of people who support Israel. It's very fashionable to support Israel in the American political space. So this is not a surprise. But what this report is saying here now is that there was an on-size control. What they may just be alleging may be that maybe the Israeli state, they've always said it because of this Epstein reports and all that, that maybe Epstein was blackmailing some of the clients that went to his to his island for those bunga bunga parties that they used to have in that island. So breaking an unclassified FBI confidential human source reports alleges that during his first term, President Trump was entirely co-opted by Israel, with Jared Kushner exercising outside control over key decisions. The CHS reports is based on information from the FBI validated informant, lending the allegation more weight than an unvetted tip. Jared Kushner is President Trump's son-in-law. He had a role in government. Both, in fact, him and his wife had roles in the first Trump presidency. He doesn't have an official role in the second Trump presidency, but what he does have is that he's part of the team, the peace envoy with Steve Witkoff, who are trying to bring peace, one, to Gaza and also between the Russians and the Ukrainians. So, well, this report will continue to watch this space. Let's go on to the next story now. The next story will be, oh, yeah, these are responses to the story. The next story will now be about just in, still the Epstein report again. The Justice Department has deleted document EFTAO 1660-68-3, which included all the vile and disgusting testimonies which named Epstein along with Trump and several other figures. The document was released today in today's batch. So obviously the scandal that this is causing now has probably made the, the Justice Department to the amount of data is so much. I think 3 million pages, but maybe because of AI these days, people are just able to quickly locate that part of the documents that has Trump's name in it. They are very much looking out for it. Well, President Trump, by this release, has just a little problem and a little explanation to do. He always insists that he doesn't have anything to do with this. This is definitely one of the most interesting stories. This is a story that a lot of people have picked up on in this report. It has to do with Bill Gates. And he says that Bill Gates contracted STD from his interactions in those bunga bunga parties. And let's read it. What it says is that Bill Gates wanted Epstein to delete evidence of his STD. Emails Epstein sent himself in 2013, claiming Bill Gates got an STD from Russian girls and begged him for antibiotics to secretly give to Melinda Gates. Key quote from Epstein: "You implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD. Your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your..." Epstein was pissed. Gates ended their friendship. Gates has always denied any real relationship or wrongdoing with Epstein, calling the meetings a mistake. Gates has a little problem. Well, the revolutions from this are so much. He had such power over so many people. What he did is that he provided the girls, and they came to the venues and they had the parties, and it was he reeled them in, very influential people, a lot of them. We saw how Larry Summers had to resign his positions, high positions he held across many, many places because he was involved in this with Epstein. So, and it possibly has been said that it may have been the Epstein case too that may have led to Bill Gates' wife leaving him. She left, she gained 60 billion off of that divorce. She divorced him, and this is a very loaded one. It says a court STD. And you would think that Bill Gates, being that he's such a great man regarding healthcare in Africa and all that, he would have, and all this, he would have somebody who will be able to slip him um, antibiotics. But one thing we get to find about antibiotics in the West is that it's very highly regulated. You need prescriptions from doctors to be able to get it. Antibiotics in the Western world is so regulated. And you will need to go to a doctor to get the prescription. It's not like that in Africa and some of the less regulated areas where you can easily get antibiotics from over the counter. Well, let's go to the next one. Bill Gates there has a little problem. This one here now is two men who believe, very powerful men. Durov is the owner of Telegram, and then Elon Musk is, of course, the owner of X, but Twitter. Durov and Elon Musk have two things they share in common. They want to populate the world. I think Elon has about 10 children, maybe more. Durov is said to have 100 children. So this story says Durov refused 300 million and Grok integration over privacy. Musk deal falls through. Durov rejected 300 million and the integration of Grok for the sake of user privacy. The deal with Musk reached a dead end because Telegram was unwilling to grant third-party neural network access to user correspondence. Instead, the messenger is developing its own solution, Cocoon, a decentralized network for AI queries where computations are performed autonomously and messages never become accessible to third parties. The platform is betting on secure and decentralized AI, moving away from decentralized corporate platforms. This is where the world is now. There's a lot of distrust regarding AI and let's just say Western technologies. There's a little thing the Americans have been doing. America has been saying that when TikTok is operated in America, it steals people's data. The simple thing is projection. America has extensive ability to read your private messages. In fact, Elon was talking about how even WhatsApp, as encrypted as it is hacked and it's accessible to most of the intelligence agencies. So they see everything that we do. Durov, we know, got into trouble with France. They held him, they seized him for a while because they claimed that he allowed child pornography or some child pedophile things in his app. His app is the Telegram app. He's the one who invented it. He manages it. He has citizenship of 3 countries: United Arab Emirates, France, and Russia. He's a Russian citizen. And maybe the Russian government told him to, they may have impressed upon him Russian intelligence. Because one thing I know is that the Russian intelligence and the Ukrainian intelligence use Telegram extensively, very extensively. And it will not be beyond Elon Musk and his computing and AI and high-tech capacity to be able to decrypt the Telegram messages if it is passed through his system. So I guess this is just a case of trust. And this is the kind of high-stake espionage the world is at now. Well, we'll go to the next story, and the next story again comes back to China. US says it wants to reverse China's dominance in shipbuilding. Meanwhile, China is mass producing LNG carrier, ultra-large container ships, and offshore engineering vessels, moving from craftsmanship to industrial civilization, from building ships one by one to rolling in batches. This isn't a competition, it is divergence of eras. China is scaling an entire ecosystem: welders, steel, engines, ports, robotics, modular assembly, and supply chains, while the US debates tariffs on aluminum it needs to build 5 ships a year. a country that can produce 10, 20, 30 ships in parallel isn't catching up. It's setting up this thing. This is really ironic. This is one of the great ironies of the world. America was by miles, after the World War, by miles the world's largest producer of ships. America could produce almost 100 ships a day at one time. I think they called them Liberty ships during World War II. And they had this extensive know-how. But at this time, they lost all that know-how to Korea and Japan. These are the largest producers of ships now. Now, China produces more ships than Japan and Korea combined. They are the world's biggest producer of ships, and they've moved into those very exclusive parts of shipbuilding, passenger cruise liners, LNG. I think those were the two large frontiers for the Chinese shipbuilding industry to catch up on. And they are now by far, by tonnage, the largest producers of ships. President Trump has recognized the national security implications of this, of letting America fall behind. During the Biden administration, I think they allowed some shipping industry that were almost collapsing in Pennsylvania to be bought over by the Koreans. And the Koreans are expected to revitalize the ships and start to build those ships, more shipping in America. So China is way, way, way ahead now. They have the supply chain, they have the steel, they have the manpower, they have everything. So they are definitely at the very top of the world there regarding shipbuilding. Let's take two stories again now. Still their monopoly. China breaks. Yes, this is the Beidou system I was talking about. China breaks 50 years of US monopoly. Chinese Beidou earns $530 billion from 137 countries. China's Beidou satellite navigation system has made a significant progress, successfully breaking the US GPS monopoly for over 50 years in the field of global satellite positioning. According to recent data, Beidou system is used in 137 countries worldwide and has generated enormous economic benefit with revenue reaching 150 billion yuan. Yes, this is more modern system. It has more satellites and it has more accuracy. So the Beidou system, as we saw, the Iranians used it in the 12-day war. They were very precise in attacking the Israeli targets, and quite a lot of countries now use the Beidou system. The Chinese have become veritable providers of alternative technology. They have definitely sovereignty in this every single domain, including the global navigation system. America is always the one who starts these systems, and then ultimately the Chinese create their own system. It's space-based, and the Chinese have become very good challengers to America in the space domain. We see their Tiangong space station now is the most modern and one of the best. Well, we should take this as our last story. Iran, Russia, and China trilateral strategic pact signed yesterday, joint naval warfare exercise in the Strait of Hormuz. Bibi isn't going to get the Iranian war. Oil reserves, gold reserves, it's been eaten. Yeah, this was a report that came off of one of the newspapers. It looks like Financial Times to me. Russia and Iran are having a joint operation in the Strait of Hormuz. They just finished one, I should point out, in South Africa. There was a joint Russia, China, Iran, and South African naval exercise that took place in South Africa recently. And now that the big armada is flexing to attack Iran and China and Russia are signaling that that Strait of Hormuz, they are going to control it. They are going to we should remember that Iran does have some Russian Kilo-class submarines that they use, very silent, very quiet, and I'm sure they're shadowing most of the American equipment there. Well, this will be my last story here, and I say, job done, now drive off with confidence. Russia will present the 300 Sama multiple rocket system in the first time in the World Defense Show in 2026 in Saudi Arabia. Yes, the Russians are selling a lot. In fact, President Trump, Putin just said that Russia made off almost 15, I think almost 35 billion. I've forgotten the exact figures, but they made quite a lot of money from selling arms. I think they're about number 4 largest arms suppliers in the world now, after America, France, and some other countries, South Korea. So the Tornado S is a HIMARS variant that is way better than the HIMARS. The warhead is bigger. It has 250 kilograms warhead. It has a longer range, but it is modeled after the HIMARS. I guess what may have happened is that the Russians got hold of some HIMARS systems and then looked through the technology and improved on it. Sputnik Live explains everything you need to know about the Rostec new system, like Tornado S, but smaller. What exactly is SAMA? It's a lighter version of the 300 millimeter SMEC and Tornado S multi-launch rocket launchers, featuring a launcher with 6 tubes mounted on the chassis of an armored Kamaz 63501, while Tornado S weighs 44 tons. Yeah, the Tornado S is really doing a lot of damage to Ukrainians, especially in those very fortified cities. The Tornado S was introduced into the battlefield, I think in the Gallipoli front. They used it in decimating and breaking the will of the Ukrainians to be able to defend Gallipoli. The Ukrainians didn't take long in either abandoning the city or surrendering to the city. Anyway, this is where I'll end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until my next show, you have a good day.